Hey guys, so we're going to carry on our series of the deadly sins of chess, and this next one is one that I see coming up so often. We're all guilty of it from time to time, but it's more common at the beginner level. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share with you a few short clips from a lesson that I had yesterday with Richard, who's a Chess Bootcamp Live member, so he gets discounted one-to-one lessons. And so Richard's in the 500 to 600 rapid range, right? So kind of at that foundation level, which is what we call it under 750. And you can see in all of these examples that the opponent plays a move. So playing the Zara bot, I think, the 750 rated bot or 850 rated bot. And Zara makes a move, and you can see that what Richard does is his default is to think, I have to react to that move, right? And this is something that we need to get out of our chess thinking, immediately jumping to, oh, something happened, I must react, okay? So what we have to do, as you will see from these examples, is to look at the threat and then calmly and rationally evaluate the threat. How much of a threat is it? Is it immediate? If the threat then comes closer, can I deal with it satisfactorily, right? And then only if it's pressing and it's urgent and whatever, might you think, okay, no, the right thing to do is to react now, okay? So I see this a lot, and I see this with some kind of beginner level players who, and I've had this in other lessons before, like with Ed. If you're listening, Ed, we've talked about this as well, which is this idea of kind of running away from shadows, where you see a potential threat or a potential attack coming down the line, and you think, oh, I have to head off that potential attack before it has a chance to happen. And that just ain't true. Because if you do that, what you'll end up with is spending a lot of your time making defensive moves, and especially pawn moves that you really, really don't want to make. Okay, so the purpose of this is not to judge Richard's thought process, because that's what we're working on. We're working on eliminating that from your game, from his game. But the key is to spot when you may be doing this as well, and to eliminate it from your game. So let's look at the first clip.
Very good.
So what's changed with this, with move 2?
Okay, I should have protected my pawn on e4.
Well, you think you should have protected it on your second move?
Yes.
Not really. I mean, it's under attack now by the knight. Okay, and is it defended?
No.
Okay, but it's now your turn, right? So you have time to defend. Yeah. So
I could have defended if I would have used the Vienna.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So
if I used the Vienna, I could protect it.
Yeah. So knight c3 defends the pawn.
Or I could secondarily I could bring the queen up to e8.
Yeah. What's the downside of queen e2?
Well, you're moving your queen.
Moving your queen, yeah. What else?
And third choice would be to move your bishop to d3.
Yeah, that's also a move. So with queen e2, what else is a problem about that move? With regard to, just think, we're in the opening phase of the game, right? So what's your priority?
You want to get your pieces out,
yeah,
your minor pieces out, so it blocks in your bishop.
Correct. Yeah, that's right. Okay.
So of the three, I think the bishop to c3 is the best move.
Knight c3.
Yeah.
Knight c3. There's also other options, right? So the thing is, where we are right now is you've said, I need to defend the pawn, right?
Right.
You don't necessarily have to defend your pawn. There are, so what we want to get you doing is thinking more expansively, right? So what else could you do other than defend the pawn?
Well, I could promote, or I could bring out my knights or bishops. I could
Yeah,
develop. I
you
could
could
develop.
develop. Yeah, but also remember that whenever there's an attack going on, you usually have options, right? So defending the attack piece is one option,
Yes.
but also moving the attack piece is sometimes an option, very often. So you do have the option now, for example, of pushing the pawn to e5.
E5.
You could
Oh,
actually,
of course.
yeah.
Okay. Is it too soon to do that? Or I have nothing developed.
It's yeah, that's true. You haven't developed any pieces, but it's like a free move because your opponent also Zara is now going to have to spend her next move moving the knight away if you push e5.
So you
So
gain
it's
tempo.
because it comes with tempo, yeah. So it doesn't actually cost you a turn. But knight c3 is also a perfectly good move. Another idea is that you could play knight c3 now and think about e5 on the next turn.
Okay. What of those two? How do I decide which is the better choice? I've gotten rid of the other two choices.
Yeah,
Well, you
yeah,
candidates. Okay. To me, it's a choice.
yeah. Well, I think they're both good moves. Um, let's bring the knight out. Just the principle of development is good, and it's a more flexible move as well.
It seems to do two things instead of one.
Yeah. And here again in the second clip, we see Richard reacting to an opponent's pawn move, but again, it's not an immediate threat. It's something that may constitute friction at some point in the future, but not necessarily an actual threat. So again, what we have to do is we have to stop, we have to refuse to react and resist that temptation to react, and then calmly evaluate how much of a threat is it, when could it occur, and can I handle it if it does manifest.
Okay, I have a question. Now that pawn move that she made,
Mm-hmm.
she could bring that down to c5 and threaten my pawn.
Yeah, she could.
Any thought of bringing the pawn from b to b4 so she couldn't bring the pawn down and threaten me from the outside, or is that something not to worry about at this time?
Well, you tell me. I mean, how can you deal with that potential threat? If, let's say, she pushes c6 to c5 on the next turn. But the thing is, if she wanted to do that, maybe why wouldn't she have pushed c5 immediately? Move the
True.
pawn 2 squares.
Of course, I've got it covered by my queen.
Yeah, but it's still capturing a center pawn with a wing pawn.
Right.
But you have the option, if she pushes that pawn forward, how can you save the pawn?
Okay. Save the pawn. I can move it forward.
Yeah, yeah. Move it forward into her territory. So,
Right.
yeah.
Okay. So my move.
So we don't need to be scared of that move.
All right.
And here again, we have another example where the opponent pushes one of the edge pawns down, H pawn, down towards Richard's territory. And again, you can see how he goes automatically to this default of, I need to protect myself against what just happened, without first evaluating, is it a risk? Can I deal with it? Should it come any closer?
Now, normally I would just move the H pawn and block his moves down.
Mm-hmm. So,
or
that's quite a common habit, with at this level, is to react to moves that maybe aren't real threats, right? So if you think about it, if Zara wants to use another move to move that H pawn a third time, right, and pushes it down to H3,
right,
Is that a threat to you?
It's not a threat to my queen unless I castle.
Yeah. And well, and also you can just push G3, you know? So
Then,
so
right.
you don't need to react to it before it happens, because if she pushes it again, you can still, you know, move your pawn out of the way, and then that pawn is kind of stuck. And here in this final clip, we've got a really interesting example where the opponent threatens a minor piece with a rook, but it's a minor piece that's defended. And yet again, though, you can see how the thinking defaults to that. Like the first thing you think about is, can I get my bishop out of the attack? And there's also another factor here, which is that people at the beginner level, before you get as much experience, that there is a strong tendency to want to avoid or resolve or make any kind of tension on the board go away. So you can't really handle this. The fact that there are pieces looking at your pieces that could potentially capture your pieces, and because that's not necessarily a bad thing, it is even something that we can use. And in this example, it's really fascinating because, in fact, if Black did capture and trade the rook for the bishop, it actually leads to a very, very serious threat against Black herself. Huh.
Aye. Well, let's see. We can move back with the bishop on the G file.
Okay. Now, but first, let's evaluate the threat.
Okay.
So you need to watch out for immediately reacting to things that happen. What you need to do is you need to evaluate how serious it is. So, what's the threat?
The threat, let me look around the board. Well, the threat, of course, is to the bishop.
Okay. Now, is the bishop defended?
It is defended by one piece.
Okay, so if rook takes bishop, what do you do?
I would take it.
You take it with a knight, yeah?
Right.
And then
or what? I could take his pawn. He would take it with his rook, and then I would also take it with the rook, and that would get rid of the pawn. So I'd solve two problems with one.
Ah, yeah. So you've got two attackers on A4, H4. Is that what you're saying? Yeah.
Right. I'd say if I brought the bishop here and he took it, then I would solve not only my pawn problem but my rook problem.
Yeah, but just imagine that rook takes bishop. Yeah.
Okay.
So visualize this: rook takes bishop, and then you recapture with a knight. There is now a very big threat to Black. Can you see what it would be?
Okay, let me look.
Big danger.
All right.
So if your knight is on G5.
Okay, G5. Threat. I can go to H7 and his bishop's under threat, or I can go to F7 but he can take back with his king.
Is that true?
Okay, if the knight is here, you can go to H7, yep. F7.
But look at the rest of the board. Look at all your pieces.
Oh, all right, yeah, right. Okay, this is what I was talking about. Oh, I see. Okay, vision. If I took it on F7, it's protected by my other bishop, my light squared bishop.
Yes. Well, so if the knight takes on F7, yeah,
right,
it's by the bishop. Okay. Well, now let's look at it from a different angle. What if the knight doesn't take on F7?
Oh, all right. If the bishop takes F7, then my goodness, isn't that checkmate?
Yeah.
Wow.
So you see, yeah, bishop takes f7 would be checkmate. So not only would Zara be giving up a rook for a bishop, but there's also a mate in one threat. So for that reason, I wouldn't react to the rook sniffing around your bishop. I think that's okay, you know? So why don't we just go ahead and castle? So there you go, guys. A few different examples, all within one single game played by a foundation level player. But the key thing of all of this is for you to get into the habit of catching yourself if you're in this kind of auto-react, pre-freak, auto-freak mode. Like something happens and you go, oh no, I must react immediately. Well, if you catch yourself doing that, remember the golden rule of the deadly sins: cut that shit out, right? Cut it out of your thinking. So catch yourself. Did I just react? Am I in the process of automatically reacting to what my opponent has done instead? And when you catch yourself, you just stop. That's the first thing. Stop, chill, sit on your hands off the mouse, and go, okay, right, well, let's evaluate this. How much of a threat is it, etc., etc. Tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to yourself about everything that is now changed on the board with the previous move. Evaluate any threats, evaluate any opportunities. Decide on what the critical way forward is now. Perhaps you should be defending. Perhaps you should be attacking. Right? Perhaps you should be improving your pieces, for example. And then come up with a series of candidate moves, evaluate which one is likely to lead to the best scenario for you, and play that move. There you go. So that's all I've got to say. Thanks for watching, everyone. And by the way, if you want to watch the whole lesson, I think we came up with an 82 accuracy in that one. Very, very interesting game with a lovely checkmate. If you want to see the whole lesson, we've got this one and several others all in the library on Chess Bootcamp Live. So come along and join the 4 live sessions every week and get access to absolutely everything in the archive as well. So thanks for watching. I'll see you soon.